Good morning and welcome to Morning Scoop for Friday, August 20th. This is your Daily Buckeye Fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Minnesota game is in 13 days. The game against Michigan in 99 days. Yes, under 2 weeks to the opener, double digits for Michigan. There's a lot going on right now for the Ohio State football program as it heads into game week, and suddenly there's not very many shows left before all of that happens. So we're going to do a little bit of everything this morning. Some recruiting, something about this year's team, and also a season preview for another Big Ten team. Luckily, I know a guy who knows a little bit about everything. He is Buckeye Scoop recruiting analyst Alex Gleitman. He's my guest this morning. Alex, let's start with recruiting. You just talked to Chase Bisontis, who is an elite offensive line prospect for 2023. He's someone we saw at camp at OSU this summer. Let people know where he might fit on the line at the college level and where Ohio State stands in his recruitment right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people love the kid because he has position versatility. He's about 6'5", 290. He could play left tackle. He's got the feet for that. He could play right tackle. And he can play guard. You're seeing a lot of people trying to get on the field there. Look at Paris Johnson, right? All world, everything you'd want in a tackle body, but he's going to be playing guard for Ohio State this year before he moves outside next year. So I think he's not a center, but I think you have position versatility at 4 of the 5 positions, which is huge. He's a really good player. You saw when he came to camp this summer, working with Greg Sajarawa, Kennedy Cook. He has that it factor. And the people pursuing him, Alabama, Notre Dame, Penn State, Ohio State, those are 4 of his top 6 schools. Rutgers and Maryland round out the top 6. But, those 4 schools are college football playoff contenders every single year, and there's a reason that they're after him. So he's obviously a great player. Ohio State, has had success at that school. Tyler Friday, Kevin Fetter, they've gotten a lot of talent, or they've gone to Don Bosco, and they've gotten a lot of talent from that conference. Cody Simon, Javante Jean-Baptiste, all from that conference, all from that area. So I think Ohio State's got a good chance here. It's really early in that recruitment. I think the kid just truly does not know where he wants to go right now. But the 6 schools I mentioned are really what he's focused on. I think he's hoping to he'll be at the Ohio State at Rutgers game. And while I'm sure he'll be there to enjoy the Rutgers atmosphere, I think he'll be paying close attention to how Ohio State's playing on the line too. He's going to try to, it's tough because they play a lot of Saturday games here in Jersey, especially his team. So I don't know how many visits he's going to be able to make during the fall, but junior day type visits in the winter, I think he'll get to a bunch, maybe some spring practices, spring games, and then he'll make official visits. And then I think a decision's coming. So Ohio State is where they need to be right now for Chase Bisontis, but I think there's still a way to go. And I would say if I had to, I think it's Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Penn State that are probably the 3 schools out in front. You can never ignore Alabama. I don't think he's going to end up at Rutgers or Maryland. You can't ignore Alabama, but I just get the sense he maybe will stay a little bit closer to home with one of those 3 schools.
Well, you did an episode of the Around the Oval podcast with Chase last week that people should definitely check out to hear more about him and his recruitment. And you've also been busy because this week in your ADAC column on the Ask the Insiders board, you had a lot of really interesting nuggets about this year's team. So let's start with wide receivers. Tony Gerdman and I yesterday were at practice talking all about Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, talking all about Emeka Egbuka, Marvin Harrison Jr. But there were 2 other names that you heard encouraging things about. Let people know, who else should we be talking about in that wide receiver room?
Yeah, and I get it. Everyone's, fascinated with the shiny new object. And Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison, I think even Jaden Ballard are going to be really good receivers for Ohio State. That said, let's not forget about who's already on the roster. And a guy who just continuously flies under the radar is Jackson Smith-Njigba. And everyone knows what they're getting in Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, elite level receivers. I'm told that people inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center expect JSN to kind of take that leap from year 1 to year 2. And I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Olave and Wilson, but you'll be able to speak about him in the same breath. They think he's going to be really good out of that slot position. And they expect a big year out of him and enables Garrett to move back outside, which just makes, I think, the unit that much stronger. So a lot of optimism around Jackson Smith-Njigba. It's not really a surprise, but the fact that people think you're going to be able to speak about him in the same breath as the other 2 elite guys that they have speaks volumes to me. And then again, I don't want to call him forgotten man. People talk plenty about him, maybe not always in the most positive light, but Julian Fleming, I mean, he battled injuries last year and, if you watched him out of high school, you knew he was physically a freak and he had elite athleticism, but he wasn't as polished as maybe some of the other guys. And maybe that's also why he didn't make an impact in year 1, but he's really kind of used some of the questions about him, I would say, from fan base and media and things like that as fuel to the fire. Worked really, really hard with Brian Hartline and the strength and conditioning staff this offseason and his own, on his own personal trainers and personal time. And I'm told he's been looking really, really good in camp, and I expect him to play quite a bit this year. It's tough to take the three guys I previously mentioned off the field, and you obviously have a few new guys really pushing for playing time. But I think Julian Fleming is definitely going to be a firm fixture in the wide receiver rotation. I think he's going to set himself up to be maybe the guy along with JSN next year when Chris Olave and presumably Garrett Wilson leave.
Linebacker is another spot that's been pretty interesting to follow this year. There's a lot of intrigue, not only with the 4 veterans from last year gone, but also with what alignment is even what's the alignment going to look like this season? 2 linebackers and a bullet, or 3 linebackers, or we even saw a little bit of 3.5, 4-ish linebackers yesterday. So you had some interesting thoughts on a few names to keep an eye on at the Ohio State linebacker position beyond just Dallas Gant, Daraja Mitchell, who everyone sort of is just sort of penciling into those starting linebacker spots.
Yeah, and I think Dallas, who's coming back from injury, is playing really well, and he might end up winning that spot. Taraja's looked good. Obviously, Kevon Pope is still there, but whether it's this year or next year, I don't know when it's going to be, but there is a lot of confidence around Cody Simon and Tommy Eichenberg being future stars for Ohio State. I think while Pete Werner, Baron Browning, Tuff Borland, Justin Hilliard, I mean, they were good, they were solid, but I feel like we really haven't seen great linebacker play from Ohio State since maybe really kind of, I mean, that Shazier was excellent, but as when you talk about I always think about Hawk, Schlegel, and Carpenter, and then Laurinaitis and Roll, and they had Tyler Moeller and Ross Homan in there, and those were really strong. I feel like they haven't had 3 strong like that since really Jim Tressel left. And that's no knock on Urban or Ryan Day or their defensive coordinators or anything like that. I just feel like they haven't had 3 rocks. Maybe early in the Urban tenure. The Raekwon McMillan group that and Curtis Grant and some of those guys, Jerome Baker, obviously some great players that have come through. But I think Cody Simon and Tommy Eichenberg, as well as some of the younger guys they got, especially since they're really only going to be going with mostly 2 linebacker looks, I think, for the next few years. At least that's the plan, given how good some of the bullets are, the Craig Youngs, the Court Williams of the world. I think that those 2 are going to be, all Big Ten, all American candidates, day 1, day 2 type NFL draft picks. That's how good the people that are watching them every day think those guys are going to be.
Before I let you go, I did want to talk a little bit of Rutgers. For those who don't know, Alex is an East Coast guy. He also covers the Scarlet Knights. So it seemed, it seems like Greg Schiano is really starting to make an impact there. They've got a really intriguing quarterback prospect committed for 2022. Gavin Wimsett is not a New Jersey guy. He's from Kentucky. So this is not just they got the local kid to commit, but he's been very impressive in some of the national camp settings. I think Mark Kivler talked about him on one of the morning scoops when he was out at the Elite 11. That seems like that's one of those things. The thing with Rutgers has always been, well, if they can just keep the New Jersey talent home, and that's been the recipe for every Rutgers coach since the dawn of time, and it never quite works out. To get a national quarterback out of a state that is not New Jersey, and then be able to supplement it with some good talent from closer to home like they are, that seems like that could be a program-changing commitment if they can hang on to him.
Yeah, I love the kid. I'm a little surprised that, more schools weren't after him. I know Notre Dame, he had a really good offer list. I'm not sure how many of them he could have committed to, but I thought, when Ohio State, when it looked like Quinn Ewers was maybe going to Texas, I know that they didn't feel that way, but I thought Ohio State should have given Gavin a look. That's how good I think he is. I think he could play at Ohio State, maybe not right away like he might play at Rutgers, but I think, in 2-3 years, he could be a starting quarterback type kid at Ohio State. He's that good. It's a huge get because to me, that's the position that's been holding them back. Greg Schiano's done a good job of infusing talent through the transfer portal, through some of his recruiting classes, just the culture overall and the preparation and how they go about it, the keep chopping mantra. They've become better, but Noah Vedral, he's just not doing it. Art Sikowski transferred to Illinois. Some of the younger guys they have are decent, but they're not the guys that are going to get them to be able to compete with, forget Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, those second tier programs in the Big Ten, because right now Ohio State's kind of on its tier of its own. But that, Rutgers wants to compete for division titles, conference titles. And how do you do that? You need elite quarterbacks. And Gavin Wimsett, I think, is the first step in the right direction for them to be able to do that.
You mentioned the influx of talent from the transfer portal last year, and that was certainly the way that Greg Schiano was just trying to kind of get a shot in the arm of talent, because talent was down at the end of the Chris Ash era, like way down. And you saw them bringing in guys like Brenton White and transfers from Michigan, transfers from Ohio State, former Malik Barrow, former Ohio State defensive lineman, like just get that immediate shot in the arm of talent where it's just like, okay, now this at least looks like a low-level Big Ten team. It no longer looks like a mid-level MAC team. It's like, okay, this is now a low-level Big Ten team. It seems like they're continuing to build that program, and that the talent's getting a little bit better. Ohio State goes to Piscataway this year, and 2 years ago we were both there. I mean, that trip to me just felt like an enormous waste of everyone's time. Like, why are we getting in the car and driving to New Jersey? Like, we know what's going to happen. It's just going to be blood everywhere. Like, this year, though, that's actually kind of an interesting trip. I mean, Rutgers nearly beat Michigan last year. They were a huge pain in the butt in the second half against Ohio State. I mean, am I crazy? Or if Rutgers can win the games they're supposed to win this year, maybe beat a team like Maryland at the end of the year, is this potentially a 6-win team that makes a bowl game? Are they ready to maybe take that next step?
Yeah, I think they are ready to take the next step. As I said, the culture's completely changed. The recruiting classes are really good. I mean, versus, certainly what they've had. I think that they're going to continue to get better every single year, but they have guys like Elijah Clark and Kyrie Ben who are ready to step in and contribute right away, possibly Elijah Clark start right away. So, they're getting freshmen like that. And then, as you said, they're hitting the transfer portal. They got a couple, they got a transfer offensive tackle from Temple, who I think can be really good. He has 3 years of eligibility left. They have Patrice Renee, who Ohio State offered and recruited out of high school. He's from Canada. He was at North Carolina. He's going to start at cornerback for them. They had a transfer from Temple in the defensive backfield that Christian Braswell. He'll miss most of the year, if not all of the year, unfortunately. They had a few defensive line transfers, one from Minnesota, a couple others that I think, are going to make an impact this year. So he continues to figure out ways, whether it's through recruiting classes in high school, through the transfer portal, brought some guys back for that extra year, thanks to COVID, that pretty much is like a transfer or an elite level recruit because they're starting type of guys. I think the talent level definitely has jumped. And I think if they can get through their first 3 games, which are home against Temple, at Syracuse, and then home against Delaware at 3-0, I think they're going to be in a position to have a shot to either go 5-7 or 6-6, maybe 7-5, best case scenario. Michigan State at home, at Illinois, and home against Maryland at the end of the year. If they can win those 3 games, which I see as very winnable games, you're there. And even if you lose one, could they steal one at Northwestern? Could they steal one at Michigan? I don't think it's crazy to say that that's, in the picture right now with the way Greg Schiano has them competing. And I think, Tom, you hit the nail on the head. There was no doubt Ohio State was going to win that game last year against Rutgers. They dominated the first half, but the second half, the way Chris Ash's teams would have just folded and died and lost that game 70-3. That team fought and clawed and tried everything, opened up the whole playbook, every trick in the bag they pulled out, special team stuff, all that stuff. Just, they knew they weren't going to win, but they wanted to show that this is what Rutgers is about right now. We're not the 70-3, 70-0 doormat that you've seen under Chris Ash. We're gonna give you a game and you're gonna get 100% effort till the end. And I think because of that, you're gonna see Rutgers playing some closer games than I think a lot of people expect them to.
The most Rutgers moment I remember since I started covering the team again in 2017 was that 2017 game there where Ohio State was up 49-0, 52-0, 56-0, whatever it was. And Chris Ash, they have the ball right at the end of the game, and Chris Ash has them line up for a field goal on the last play of the game to desperately avoid getting shut out. And they clang it off the upright, and it's no good, and they get shut out. And it's like, what's the most humiliating way this game could have ended? There it is. That's it right there. You're definitely that Rutgers is gone now. That is no longer the Rutgers that you're going to see on the field this year. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's amazing. I did not think Greg Schiano was necessarily going to just be the magic bullet to solve all the problems when he showed back up there a couple of years ago. But it sure seems like they're not necessarily going to be, top 10 in the nation anymore. But it sure seems like he's got them on the track to be like back to winning 8 games and playing in a half decent bowl game at some point in a couple of years.
Yeah, he's the guy. He was the guy. he knows how to win at Rutgers. He just knows the secret sauce there. He knows he's very well respected in New Jersey. The high school coaches like him. He's put together the right staff, which I think was a big issue with what Chris Ash did. And he's the guy. I just, I don't know if he would have done well at Tennessee, but I was sure as heck confident that he was going to at least bring Rutgers back to, making a bowl game every year at 6-6. I don't know if that's going to come this year or next year or the year after, but he will get them there at some point. Can he get them to be an Iowa type team where they're a 6-6 to 8-4 team and occasionally get the 10-win season that, surprises you and things like that? I don't know that yet. I'm in wait and see mode. I think if anyone's going to get him there, it's him. I don't, the Big East was a little bit of a different beast when he was there the first time around versus the Big Ten. He doesn't, he has to play Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State every year. And then there's crossover games and who knows who they play. So it's not going to be as easy this time around to get him. They had them in the top 5, I think as high as number 2 at one point during that 2006 season. But I think he's the guy who's going to be able to get them, as high as they possibly can go.
Well, Alex, thank you for knocking out 3 different show topics for me this morning. It was, as I said, the season's getting closer. We're running out of days. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, the season's here. Well, we have a lot of season previews to do. We'll see how many of them we actually get through. Some of those may get pushed off to like during the season or something, but there is a lot to talk about right now, and the season is almost here. And a fantastic place to talk about all of that is on the Ask the Insiders board at BuckeyeScoop.com. Nevada Buck churning out more great insider nuggets from inside practice. We have Bill Green, we have Kirk Barton, we have Alex, we have Dominic Smith, we have Ross Fulton, we have Tony Girdham, and we have Mick Walker. It is just an absolute murderer's row of incredible insight, incredible analysis, lots of great content, all on the Ask the Insiders board at BuckeyeScoop.com. All you have to do is sign up to become a member today, and you get access to all of that insight, all of that analysis, all of that great content. Membership is the price of a lousy chain store pizza every month. So instead of heartburn, get yourself some wonderful Ohio State coverage that you just can't get anywhere else. The season less than 2 weeks away right now. Sign up now. You get access to the last final weeks of camp, plus the start of the season. We're going to have some incredible stuff. We have some just amazing stuff planned for the week of the first game. Have our the world premiere of our documentary, Fight for Football, Saving the 2020 Season. That's coming up. You got to be a member of Buckeye Scoop to sign up to go see that in person. We're going to have a lot of great content leading up to the game from the state of Minnesota. We may have a surprise guest on that trip with us. We'll see. I guess if you're listening, you can't see me wiggling my eyebrows, but trust me, I did. We'll see. We may have a surprise guest with us on that Minnesota trip. There is going to be some fun stuff coming, all at BuckeyeScoop.com. And if you are watching on YouTube, at the end of this video, hit the subscribe button. There will be a thing that pops up on the left-hand side that has another video you can check out. And the thing on the right-hand side that has a little circle Buckeye Scoop logo. Hit that. You'll get subscribed to our YouTube feed. What that means is every time we post a new podcast, every time we post a new video from practice, every time we post a new interview with a player and coach, it's all there. It comes right to your phone and it says, hey, do you want to watch Ryan Day talk about the Ohio State football team? And it's like, yeah, I bet you would. So then you click on that and you go right there and you never miss a thing. It's all free. YouTube.com/Buckeye Scoop, or just click on that Buckeye Scoop logo at the end of this video to subscribe to our channel. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.